Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mission Yozakura Family Season 1, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, after having a nightmare, Taiyo is even more, motivated to protect Mutsumi. He feels like in the state he's in right now. The only reason why he made it through last time and everything got resolved is because luckily he had his family to back him up. But it's like, I want to be there to protect Mutsumi because it's also my job too. So he goes to Futaba asking her to train him. And we kind of learn a little bit more about Futaba's circumstances. We learned that she's been practicing like martial arts ever since she was 3, but she started training with to complete her Yozakura family training took an extra 3 years. And that's like, right, these are people who have the Yozakura gene, so they're superhuman. Because her thing was Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu is kind of like what she's mastering. So I don't know, because at first I was wondering if she had like superhuman strength, but I guess it's like if you know the techniques. I mean, the way she's able to just twirl around a regular human like it's not. I mean, she did it to Kishiro in the first episode. So there might be some superhuman strength there on top of the Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu, but it could just also be like, right, using your own enemies like energy, like a momentum against them. So it could just be something like that. But for her, she sees Taiyo's dedication, and it's like, right, like you can't let your emotions be the reason kind of leading the charge for this, but that instinct to want to like train her, she's like, cool, I respect that, keep that. So in like a month, we're going to do all out training, but until then you'll live here, get accustomed living here for like a month, and then we'll do all out training. Except she kind of let it slip her mind on purpose that, oh yeah, the entire house is a walking booby trap. We got a little bit of that with Kishiro, but you thought like, oh yeah, they set that up ahead of time, which it seems like they probably modified it just to keep Kishiro out of the house during it when Taiyo was there. But this house naturally has like a defense mechanism. Makes sense. Just in case like anyone ever tries to come in, like you want to have a defense set up around the house, but it's also used as training. The entire house is a walking booby trap that is automated by a computer, which I was almost wondering, did Shion set it up? But she never like gave herself any credit like that. So she might have had a hand in, or maybe it's like it's always been a thing. So it predates the 10th generation, which is where we are right now with Mutsumi as the head. But yeah, the place is a walking booby trap, and you have to learn how to kind of survive it. Like, it's like you have to survive living here for like a month. That's what the whole trial period of living here was all about. To be fair, Taiyo didn't have anywhere else to go, but still. But it's like, yeah, you got to train on everything he needs to know to be prepared. Now, obviously, his circumstances are a little different from the Yozakuras because it's like, right, they have the genes in them that make them superhuman. They still have to put in the time and training, but it puts them at a whole other level. They start off at a different starting point than him as a regular human does. You're kind of starting at whatever you're coming into this with, and they already came with all the bonuses. They started a new game with bonuses because of they already had these. I guess you almost make the argument cheat codes already like installed type of situation. The mods kind of already installed, so having to survive an alarm clock that explodes every morning, getting food and whatever you need out of the refrigerator, things opening up, guns firing at you, constantly ingesting poison. The only person that's not affected by this, generally speaking, is Mutsumi. Makes sense. Like, why would the place ever target her? The whole place's instinct is to protect her. So she's also the only one in the house who never gets any poisoned food. So... And also, like, the most it does is give you the runs, but you have to get into the bathroom, but the bathroom's locked, and it's a code that changes, like, every minute. So it's like, man, they throw you into the very deep end. How do you turn the channel? You have to shoot the remote with a gun, like, a certain distance away while you're inside the house. You have to shoot the remote controller just to turn it on and turn the channel. It's like, also, what is that remote made of that is fine taking a bullet? I wonder if the bullet's not, like, actual bullets and, like, maybe, like... I would assume even blanks would break a remote, but maybe the remote is made out of something special. It's all for the purposes of training, but yeah, it's quite a lot for Taiyo, and everyone else makes it seem effortless. And that's also the thing too. They only turn the alarms off when they're just like when like some of them are injured and they just don't want to deal with, like, it's too much of a hassle. like if they're injured and stuff. So that's the only time they can turn it off, because as an official member of the Yozakura, you can just turn it on and off whenever you want to, but they keep it on. Makes sense. You got to keep you got to guys stay on edge. You got to make sure your instincts and your abilities are sharp. So I mean, they've even got Taiyo in some Dragon Ball Z-esque weighted clothing. So he's wearing the t-shirt at school, and everyone, his friends at school are like, "Yo, are you okay?" He's like, "Nah, I'm good." He's like, "I can't tell them I'm wearing like this heavy-ass shirt. They wouldn't even believe me." But he's like, it's so heavy, his head is sinking and breaking into his desk. It's a lot, and Mutsumi can tell that what's going on, and she feels bad because she kind of blames herself. It's like, I like, you're not pushing yourself too hard for me. And he's like, "No, of course not. It's just," but she's like, "I get it. You want to protect me." But for her, it's like, you're not weak. You've always been sure. And we got to get more insight into their relationship. It seems that they started off as just friends. Well, not even just like associated, because they were neighbors. Like they're just like, "Oh, hey, hi." That's about it. It's not until they got to middle school where they got a lot closer, because that's after the incident that led to her getting white hair, and it kind of drew a lot of negative attention. And some girls were like messing with her, because they're like, "Oh, look at you trying to gain so much attention." So because she tries to dye her hair, but it never stuck. Like it's so. Which is interesting, I think. So it's like, oh, why not cut it? And it's like, well, I think Mutsumi also doesn't want to cut it, because I think just as much as it's a reminder for Kiyoshiro, I think it's also a reminder for her, I think, to never like let her guard down or never be too careful, because it's not just her life on the line. I think she might have a little bit of like I think, and her and Taiyo are very similar in this regard, but to be fair, the entire family's got this regard of, we will put our lives on the line to protect Mutsumi. But I think Mutsumi's kind of got that perspective of, I need to make sure the people I'm around are okay too. And so, like I said, just as much as it's a reminder for Kiyoshiro, I think for Mutsumi it's meant to be I keep saying Mitsumi instead of Mutsumi, but whatever the case may be, Mutsumi, it's meant to be a stark reminder for herself. But yeah, Taiyo diffused that situation by, out crazying those girls. It's like, oh, like, hey, how, without hurting the girls, how do I scare them off? Oh, I start cutting my own hair. It's like, oh, this guy's crazy and weird. Let's get out of here. And for Mutsumi, it's kind of like, oh, because she was like, "No, you can call me like Mutsumi." He's like, "No, you can call me Taiyo." He's like, "You just call me Taiyo," because she called out his name. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that." He's like, "No, it's perfectly fine." And I think that was the moment she really started falling for him, because she started blushing. So for her, it is a thing of, she just doesn't want him to push himself too hard. And that just obviously was extra motivation for him. But that conversation, you saw Shinzo and Shion watching nearby, and so they kind of collaborated to come up with some stuff. Shinzo asked Shion to gather up some like combat data on Taiyo, and Shinzo is helping him with his aiming and stuff. And it's like, oh, but we find out the reason why he never leaves his garbage can tank is because he's kind of the shy type and doesn't really like, he gets very uncomfortable around people. So it's a literal barrier between him and people. It's also interesting because Shion's exactly the same way. She stays cooped up in her room. I think for Taiyo, this was also meant to be a moment, be like, oh, wow, like my new fam, like two of my older siblings are literally the exact same way I am, are kind of shy and bashful in their own means. It's actually kind of really sweet. Because Shion does notice him, because she's like, right, it is interesting that his progress, even for a normal human, is pretty exceptional. She's like, is it just talent and hard work, or is there something else? And as we see his hands, he has scars on them. I guess in my head, I didn't know if those scars were like, because they looked old, but it's like, right, like time passes, like throughout this entire episode, a month time passes. So it could have been like those were like from like a week or two ago, and like they've already scarred up, because he has like burn marks on his hand, and then like he has a whole bunch of scars. So I guess that was supposed to be the early moments maybe of him realizing like, I've got to cover this up without anyone knowing. Because I thought that was an interesting reveal where it seems like, oh, he's just getting the hang of things until Futaba removes it. It's like, oh, he went to Kinga to learn how to like use fake synthetic skin to cover up his body, because he didn't want Mutsumi to worry, like if she saw how banged up he really was. Because Futaba was like, there's no way you make such exceptional progress without taking exceptional risk. So he's been banging himself up, obviously learning from Shion, Shinzo, even getting Nano to like cover, like, help, cover his wounds. Also teaching him about the poison and how to counteract it and stuff. Like there was the one where they were kind of having to like go, oh god, what's the term I'm looking for? Prone and kind of army crawl underneath some gas. It's still the thing of, it's your protagonist thing. Once again, the thing a lot of protagonists have it. Once again, the shonen variety protagonist. The person I always associate it with the most is Rin Schwarzer from Trails of Cold Steel. The whole element of you will always put other people's well-being before your own. Tayo's like that. It's like he's pushing himself for Mitsumi's sake, but it's like you have to take care of yourself. If you can't take care of you, there's no way you're going to be able to take care of someone else. But also, like, and that's also why he hid his wounds, because it's like, well, because he knows Mitsumi would feel so bad. I even love at one point in time, he's like, oh, can you give me that milk? And she gave it to him, and he immediately had to go to the bathroom, but he still couldn't get the door open at that point in time. And she was so upset with herself. She's like, I'm the one that gave him the milk. And it was Nano and Shinzo trying to appease her. I think it was Shinzo like rattling something, like it's okay, like she was a baby or something. I thought that was so sweet. But they all appreciate Kiyashiro still, because he's the only one that had the least amount of interaction with Tayo this episode. He's only like watching in amusement, but everyone else is like taking part and helping with this whole operation. Because even Mitsumi had Goliath be his guard dog. It's like, yeah, just to make sure that Kiyashiro doesn't like attack you, because it's like, oh, well, the fact that you were able to have a good night rest was kind of interesting. So I wonder, does Goliath just constantly stay his like guard dog? He just makes sure, it's like, cool, I got to make sure I don't ever wake you up, accidentally step on you again. So we only saw it happen at the beginning of the episode, so probably made sure to be more aware and conscious of that going forward. It's interesting too, because speaking of Goliath, Mitsumi was like, yeah, he would never attack the head, which makes me wonder, has he ever attacked the other siblings before? Maybe before they were endowed. Like, once again, we don't know the ins and outs of how like the family dynamic works. Because we do see that picture Futaba has where she's like, oh, she's like, yeah, maybe like he has what it takes to protect, like even more so than what I kind of expected from him when it comes to protecting Mitsumi. But she was looking at a picture of all of them fairly young. Because I meant to comment on this in episode 1. She is big sis Futaba, so I was wondering if she's kind of got the lolly thing going on when she looks younger than what she actually is. I mean, if you look at that picture, like she does seem like the oldest one amongst them. I can't remember if, like, I'm sure like Kiyashiro, like she might be she's the older sister, but he might be the eldest. Well, he's the eldest son, but I don't know like who's older between the two of them. But she did like have a young Mitsumi like twirling in her hand, like when she was kind of tossing her around. So I do wonder, like, I was almost wondering if like she's kind of got like a reborn situation. If you've ever seen Katsukyo Hitman Reborn, the Hitmen like Reborn and all the other like babies, they have very specific circumstances. It's been a hot minute. I haven't seen the anime in like, because I binged that anime in like 2011, so I haven't seen it in like 13 years. So I don't fully remember their circumstances of why they had the baby forms, but that's not how they normally look. It's kind of a sealed state form, kind of like the Zanpakutos in Bleach type of situation. Not like fully that, but you get the comparison I'm trying to make of like a sealed state versus like a released state in Bankai and all that. I am curious to see what Tayo's circumstances are going to be. Once again, everyone's got their specific gimmick and thing for their circumstances. Like Shinzo's got like his weapons in his tank. Shion, once again, the like tech, like with her drones. Kinga's got the disguise thing. Nano seems to be a medical expert, and maybe Nano's like, I kept being like using Luffy's. I said third gear, I meant gear third. I said that in episode 1. Maybe instead of that, it's more closer to Chopper. How Chopper uses medicine, like uses those balls to like transform them. Like maybe it's something similar to that, because it did seem like it, like I said. But I mean, sure, there's still a parallel you can draw to Gear Third in that capacity. But yeah, like I said, you see everyone's gimmick, but even like in the opening credits, all you see is Tayo having a gun. So as a regular person, like maybe like him just becoming an expert marksman is all there really is to it potentially for him. Maybe he's going to find a very specific gimmick or thing for himself. I'm curious to ultimately see what that ends up being. I don't know enough My Hero Academia to like references, but I've picked up enough My Hero over the years of just like, right, what is his quirk is what I'm trying to say. It seems like everyone else has theirs except for him. So, but like maybe his not being special, kind of just being a regular human ends up being his quirk because he has to work double hard to kind of compensate for not being a special person amongst the Yozakura family, but I'm sure he's not the first person to marry into the family that's had to deal with that potentially. I didn't talk about it either, but when Futaba was looking at that photo, we did see someone like whose face is obscured by like a glare, with long blue hair or something like that. That's got to be. I'd assume Matsumi's mom, but it could be like maybe they actually do have another sibling. Like maybe there's an even older sibling. I'd assume mom, but we don't we don't know what the parent situation is. So. Especially with how it works for all the other siblings, but especially in Matsumi's case. I wonder, is it like a direct descendancy thing of Matsumi's parents, like one of her parents was like the ninth or something like that, or does it not necessarily work like that? Because going back to Katsuhiro Hitman Reborn, like I said, it's been a hot minute, but like Suna, it wasn't. I know he looked like one of the like. I don't remember if Hondu was like the guy he resembles. I don't remember if they were like. I don't remember if he was like the first Vongala boss or whether he was like just. I can't remember what his number was because I think Suna's 14. I don't remember. Wasn't the guy 9 or was he a higher number? I don't remember. But they look alike, but I actually don't remember if they actually had any blood relation. Like it's been so long since I've seen it, so I don't remember storytelling wise whether or not they looked alike, but it might just be like kind of like in One Piece inheriting the will of D. Doesn't necessarily make you relate it to Gold Rogers, but I wonder if it's something like that where it's just like, yeah, like Suna inherited Hondu's will, but like and they look similar, but they're not blood related. I feel like I remember them not actually being blood related. You assume like they are like blood related, but it turns out not to be the case at all. Actually sitting here, I'm like, what was Suna's parent situation like? I feel like I vaguely feel like I remember seeing his mom pop up, but I don't remember. That's a series I actually should like go back to at some point in time because it's been so long. Either way, tangents and all that aside. I did forget that Futaba did leave him a code-breaking book. It's like, code-breaking book for beginners. And then he was finally able to crack and lockpick his way into the bathroom, and everyone celebrates with him, which Kishiro is kind of like, why are we celebrating? But she's like, look at you still trying to put up a front, like, not willing to acknowledge his accomplishments. But it's like, cool, let's keep up the training. Let's turn the difficulty to very hard. Let's put this even heavier shirt on you. You've got this. So let's get to it. But Tayo's going to take it head on if it means, being prepared for what's to come. So once again, just another fun episode. Getting a training arc pretty early on, but I'm sure it's not going to be the last one. I think probably anime and manga in general love training arcs more than anyone, but I also love training arcs too because you're always like, ooh, what new skill are you going to learn? How is this going to develop in the future? So I'm excited to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.